The Message of Geoffrey the Great, Chapter 1. In the kingdom of North Hinterland lived a boy named Geoffrey who yearned to be a knight. His dreams were filled with adventures of fighting giants and ogres and sea creatures on his trusted horse Tristram, wielding swords and lances and flinging stones 100 meters away. He would climb trees and look far beyond the hamlet that he called home, imagining beyond the hills the castles and the damsel he hoped to save one day. He would dream of challenging other knights for her affection, bowing to her in his chivalrous manner after defeating said knights in contests of strength and wit, proving to her his valor and worth. He invented dragons the size of castles emerging from dark forests to stomp and blow deadly fire upon unguarded villages, villagers running this way and that while he and his steed raced to protect them. He pictured his return from slaying the famed manticore, that fearsome beast with a man's head, a lion's body, and a tail like a scorpion, the deafening cheers of men and women, low and high, as they hoisted him on their shoulders for saving them once again. He dreamed of stories written about him, like this one, being read to small children who yearned to be like him. All this he imagined as he performed his chores in the day and ate his dinner by fire at night. Alas, the only problem was that our young lad was just a peasant, just one boy among many who could never hope to escape the doldrums of labor and the barriers imposed on him by the social hierarchy of his kingdom. While he dreamed of lords and ladies, mythical creatures, and adventures, his dirt-stained, calloused hands would remind him that he was not more than a serf, unworthy even to approach the very knights he hoped to defeat one day in battle. This was true from his boyhood into his teenage years, and yet his imagination never failed to produce the hope that his future would be different. Then, one day, a message arrived from the lord of his manor, Sir William. Read in front of all the serfs of the nearby lots, it read thus: "To all the serfs and peasants on my land, I hereby order that a search be made for a worthy lad who can ride a horse. He will be sent on urgent business to deliver a message to our neighboring kingdom, South Hinterland. His reward for successfully delivering this message will be dinner with me and my family, a feast fit for a king, and my eternal gratitude and recognition. Decide who goes by this time tomorrow, and send him with this note to arrive at noon. Sir William." Well, you can imagine the stir this caused among the peasants and serfs. Geoffrey listened to the din of their conversation, hearing name after name of the boys whom they considered capable. There was the most obvious choice, Henry, who was not only a skilled rider, but also the strongest of them. They were reminded of the fact, however, that he was recently injured while felling a tree. There was Alaric, who was as swift on a horse as any of the squires whom villagers had seen riding behind their knights. It was learned just then, though, that Alaric had been caught stealing from his neighbor. He was disqualified as being untrustworthy. Then there was Godwin, strong and trustworthy, to be sure, but often sour and churlish in his demeanor. He was dismissed as a poor representation for the village. Who then, the serfs and peasants asked, could manage such a task? Geoffrey, hoping that they would notice him, stood as tall as his small frame could lift him, and hoped that they would remember his steady gait as he practiced riding one of the workhorses the week before. Only when one of the older men, John, stepped aside to think to himself did he notice Geoffrey. Stopping beside him, John at first looked preoccupied in his thoughts, perhaps wondering the reason the Lord would send a peasant rather than a knight. After a moment standing there, his eyes returned to focus on Geoffrey. "Hail, lad, stay a moment." He turned to the group. "What of Geoffrey? He's ridden before." The crowd began to murmur. "I'm not sure he's old enough or wise enough," one said. "Give him a chance," said another. "He's as trustworthy as any." The crowd continued for a moment until John spoke up. "I've seen this lad work from morning to dusk every day without so much as a comment in complaint. Give him a chance now. He'll not fail us." The ambiguity in the crowd seemed to shift. Murmurs continued, this time in favor of the boy. "Let's see what he can do," a woman said. "A boy's got to grow up sometime," commented one of the others. At last, they turned to him silently, as if to size him up, and in the silence, John said, "It's settled then. Geoffrey's our man." To Geoffrey, "Get ready, lad. You'll need to be off for a long journey by morning tomorrow." Geoffrey's chest swelled and his shoulders shifted back as he watched the others looking at him. He knew their eagerness for him to make them proud in the Lord's and perhaps even the king's eyes. So it was that Geoffrey saddled his horse and was off before dawn the next morning. Although the Lord's castle loomed always in the sight of the serfs in his community, he had never dreamed of traveling there. Even other peasants who served the Lord in and around the castle were of a different sort, and when they visited hamlets like his to trade for handiwork, chairs, tools, and more, they somehow looked bigger and more important than the peasants in his own community. Now he felt like one of them. As he looked down from his horse, he felt pride knowing that he had the opportunity to show the others that he was the lad in his dreams, the intrepid hero who felled beasts and rescued damsels.